Michael Anthony was the quiet hero of Van Halen. While fans were busy watching the flashy guitar solos from Eddie Van Halen, the wild moves of lead singer David Lee Roth, and the pounding drums from Alex Van Halen, one man stood in the shadows, holding the entire band together. That man was Michael Anthony, the bass player and high harmony singer whose loyalty, musical skills, and personal sacrifices were far greater than anyone ever realized. But his story isn't just about playing bass. It's about betrayal, being left out, and learning the truth, not through a conversation or meeting, but on the internet. What happened to Michael Anthony was not only painful, but it also changed the way many people see Van Halen forever. A musical start. Michael Anthony was born into a musical family. His father, Walter Sobolewski, was a trumpet player who often practiced at home. Young Michael would sit and listen, slowly developing his own love for music. Wanting to be like his dad, he started playing trumpet as well. In junior high, he joined the school marching band after his family moved to Southern California. He went to Dana Junior High School in Arcadia, where he learned to play music with a team and follow discipline. But by the time Michael turned 13, he had a new passion: rock music. Most kids wanted to play guitar or drums, but Michael wanted to be different. A friend let him borrow a guitar, and he turned it into a bass by removing 2 strings. That small change sparked something big. Seeing his dedication, his dad bought him a real bass guitar and an amp. Inspired by famous bassists like Jack Bruce, John Paul Jones, and Harvey Brooks, Michael practiced day and night. Even though he was left-hand, he learned to play with his right hand, showing how determined he was. The band called Snake. In the early 1970s, Michael Anthony played in local bands around Southern California. The most important one was called Snake. It was a trio that played hard rock and blues. Michael was not only the bass player, he also sang lead vocals. Snake performed at school dances, clubs, and local events, and started to get noticed. During this time, another band named Mammoth was also playing in the same area. That band included brothers Eddie and Alex Van Halen. One night, Snake opened for Mammoth at a school show. When Mammoth's sound system broke, Michael offered to let them use his band's equipment. That simple act of kindness made a big impression on the Van Halen brothers. Later, Mammoth's bass player left the group. Eddie and Alex remembered Michael and invited him to a jam session. After one session, they knew he was the right guy. His bass playing was strong, and his singing blended perfectly with the band's sound. Soon after, the band changed its name from Mammoth to Van Halen. With David Lee Roth on vocals, Eddie on guitar, Alex on drums, and Michael on bass, the classic lineup was complete. Rise to fame. Van Halen became a powerhouse in the Los Angeles music scene. They played famous clubs like Gazzarri's and Whiskey A Go-Go. Fans loved their energy. Michael Anthony's high-pitched backing vocals became a signature part of their sound. While Eddie shredded guitar and Roth danced around stage, Michael anchored the music with steady bass lines and perfect harmonies. When their first album came out in 1978, it was a massive hit. Songs like Runnin' with the Devil and Ain't Talkin' 'Bout Love showed off Michael's solid bass work, while Jamie's Cryin' featured his amazing background vocals. At first, Michael was treated equally. He got a fair share of the band's profits and helped make business decisions. But as the band grew more famous, the balance began to shift, losing ground. By the early 1980s, Van Halen was one of the biggest bands in the world, but behind the scenes, things were changing. Tensions grew between David Lee Roth and the Van Halen brothers, and Michael Anthony found himself being pushed to the side. During the 1984 tour, a major problem occurred. Michael was asked to sign a contract giving up his future earnings and songwriting credits. According to their former manager, Noel Monk, Eddie, Alex, and Roth stood over Michael as he signed the papers just hours before a concert. He felt he had no choice. This meant that even though Michael played and sang on the songs, he wouldn't earn money from them in the future. He didn't complain or make a scene. He stayed professional, hoping to keep the band together. The album 1984 went on to sell over 10 million copies in the US. But Michael didn't earn what he deserved. He kept playing and touring, but his role in the band started to shrink. The public insult. In the 2000s, things got worse. Eddie Van Halen began making negative comments about Michael in interviews. He claimed he had to teach Michael how to play and suggested that Michael didn't contribute much. These comments shocked fans. People knew how solid Michael's playing and singing had always been. Other musicians also spoke out in Michael's defense. It seemed like Eddie's statements were unfair and possibly untrue. Michael Anthony later said that the comments hurt him deeply. He had been loyal to the band for decades, and hearing that from Eddie broke his heart. He had hoped they would reconnect, but that never happened. Slowly erased. By the late 1990s, Michael's presence in the studio was fading. On the 1998 album Van Halen 3, he only played bass on 3 songs. Eddie played the rest. In 2004, Van Halen went on tour again with Sammy Hagar, but Michael was treated like a guest, not a full member. He got less money and had to agree to terms that made him feel like a hired hand instead of a bandmate. In 2006, Michael found out he had been replaced, not through a phone call, but online. Eddie Van Halen had put his teenage son Wolfgang in the band instead. Michael was devastated. After giving his life to Van Halen, he was cut out without even being told directly. New paths with Sammy Hagar. After leaving Van Halen, Michael Anthony reconnected with Sammy Hagar, the former Van Halen singer. Together they formed several new bands, starting with The Other Half. They played Van Halen hits and celebrated the music they helped create. They also formed a short-lived group called Planet Us with guitar legend Joe Satriani and drummer Dean Castronovo. Although the band didn't last long, it showed that Michael could still rock with the best. Their biggest success came with the band Chickenfoot, formed in 2008. With Hagar, Satriani, and Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Michael was back in a top-tiering rock band. Their albums were hits, and critics praised Michael's bass playing and vocals. Later, he joined Sammy Hagar and The Circle, playing a mix of Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, and original songs. Their album, Space Between, hit number 4 on the Billboard chart in 2019, proving Michael Anthony still had star power. The canceled tribute. When Eddie Van Halen passed away in 2020, fans hoped for a tribute tour to honor him. Alex Van Halen reached out to Michael Anthony and others, hoping to organize a final reunion. Joe Satriani was even considered as a guest guitarist. But things fell apart. David Lee Roth reportedly didn't agree with the plan, and Alex Van Halen suffered a back injury. The emotional pain from past conflicts also made it hard to bring everyone back together. Michael confirmed he had been contacted and was open to it, but without everyone agreeing, the tour was canceled. That meant Michael Anthony never got the chance to say goodbye to the band in a final, respectful way. Family and legacy. After the idea of a reunion fell apart, attention turned to Wolfgang Van Halen, Eddie's son. He now carries his father's musical legacy through his own band, Mammoth WVH. He writes records and plays everything himself. Wolfgang has been clear, there will be no cheesy tribute movie or over-the-top tour. His mom, Valerie Bertinelli, also spoke out against a Van Halen biopic. She said it would hurt too much to see Eddie's personal struggles turned into entertainment. Even though many fans still wish for one final Van Halen performance, the story is likely over. But that doesn't mean the music is forgotten. Final thoughts. Michael Anthony may never have been in the spotlight like Eddie, Alex, or David Lee Roth, but his bass playing, singing, and quiet strength helped build Van Halen into the rock giant it became. He stayed loyal through the good times and the bad, never demanding attention but always giving everything he had. Even when the band pushed him aside, he kept making music, forming new bands, and winning over fans again and again. His story is a reminder that the people who hold everything together are often the ones we don't notice until they're gone. Thanks to Michael Anthony, the Van Halen sound was complete. And though his story is full of heartbreak, it's also one of strength, talent, and true love for music.